Guys, I'm really bummed out. I lost the recording from the last section in chapter 8, so I'm going to re-record it. But I'm going to move forward first, kind of get my morale back. I'm going to re-record where I lost. Okay. OA, osteoarthritis. Very common, irreversible, wear and tear. So we can get this simply with age or it's basically the name for old age, for old age of the bones. But when a pathology exists, and is defined, you could have OA at an early age, and it's that the cartilage is breaking down quickly, and you're going to have pain and bone-on-bone contact. It's a normal aging process. You hear a crunching noise, sometimes referred to as crepitus, because there is not any cushioning between the bones. And there can be mild pain that can be reduced by a specific type of cream. And then these are some of the glucosamine, chondroitin, sulfate, and nutritional supplements that have found to be not effective. So this is something where you might go to the Rite Aid or the Walgreens pharmacy and try these things out, but they haven't been found to be evidence-based yet. Glucosamine is like the most popular one right now, but placebo works. So if you feel like it's working, then you can keep taking it. And if it makes you feel better, it makes you feel better. Here's a little bit of what it can look like with hand involvement. You see some bumping up here. There's some nodules that have been built up in the hand, right? So you get kind of a bone-on-bone contact and then bone deposit down where you normally wouldn't have it. So that would be in a severe osteoarthritis case. This is most common in the knee, right? We see a degeneration or an eroding of the cartilage. So the cartilage is no longer there, and then that's what leads to exposure of the bone, and then the bone itself too will be wear away and be painful. Here again, you can see it. We have the bone spraying and the hypertrophy, right? Again, so there's some calcium deposits in places that we don't normally see them. Here you can see that the cartilage, right, and between the tibia here is completely eroded away or gone. It can be in the hip as well. Here we see the labrum of the acetabulum deteriorated, and here we see that articulating hyaline cartilage on the head of the femur. Right, so now here it's really well illustrated how now you'd have bone-on-bone contact without that cushion and glide. Here we see it in the hands again. Again, the common sign here is this buildup of the excessive calcium nodules. And there you go with arthritis of the hand. Here's an arthritis that leads to a necrosis or a very deep eating away of the head of the femur. Okay. A rheumatoid arthritis, on the other hand, is an inflammatory autoimmune disease. So OA, you're thinking natural wear and tear, friction force, use. That's what causes the degeneration of the cartilage, and it leads to bone-on-bone contact. With rheumatoid arthritis, right, it's different. It's when the immune system is attacking its own cells, and it's causing also an inflammation of the joint, okay? So, all right, so we get inflammation of the synovial membrane. It affects the joint. The blood cells migrate to the joint. So instead of wear and tear, right, in OA where things are wasting away that way, we have new cells moving in, releasing inflammatory chemicals, which the way they're supposed to do, right? But it's not necessary. So it's an autoimmune disease, right? It shouldn't be happening, but it is. Those inflammatory chemicals start to destroy the tissue in there. the result is in a thickened synovial membrane, and that becomes an abnormal tissue is called pannus, and it clings to the articular cartilage. So you have an extra tissue there that is clinging and then starts to erode the cartilage as well. That's where we get scar tissue, and we get ankylosis, which is it's when two bones start to fuse together, right? So there's no movement in the joint. There's different treatments for this, with moderate to good results. Here's a hand deformity. So again, this is pannus buildup that leads to erosion and stiffening or ankylosing of the, I want to say ankylosis. So turning that into a verb, because when you have ankylosis, which is the noun, so I'll just use the noun form, but when you have ankylosis, you have the bones that used to have movement joining together, and now there's no movement there. It all systemic, right? So it's affecting everywhere, and including the aortic valves of the heart. We also have arthritis, and so it's not arthritis per se, but it's rheumatoid arthritis of the aortic valves, which is the same processes due to the same issue with this inflammatory autoimmune disease, is that it sends information to attack the cells, inflammation, and then there's a wearing away or a death to the valve tissue. Can happen in young people as well as old. This is another young person. Here's an x-ray of the ankylosing and the deformity that results from RA. So these are typical presentations that you see with RA, especially this is one I've seen the most. You'll see it in the very old population, this windswept look. Okay, let's talk about gouty arthritis. Uric acid crystals go into the joint area. It's most common in men. We see it in the feet, and if untreated, the bone ends fuse and the joint becomes immobilized. Drinking water, there's some drugs for this. Avoiding alcohol and foods high in purines, such as liver, kidneys, and sardines. Some people have exacerbated gout just by eating seafood. So it doesn't even have to be sardines, like they have like a fish, not a fish dish, but I'm thinking like scallops and mussels and clams. They eat this like dinner out, and then, they can't walk because their gout is so inflamed. So uric acid, this is the urate crystal, right, in a microscopic form, looking at that. So that's what gets built up. And again, usually in the great toe, it's painful. It's painful for walking. It can present like plantar fasciitis at first. So early symptoms might feel like there's a tightness in the palmar side of the foot. And then later it becomes evident that it's the crystals in the foot that are causing that pain and not inflammation of fascia. It can also happen in the hand, and this is an example of that. I have some, again, we're looking at crystals, and then those crystals are building up in this area, and they're reflecting the light from the x-ray, which is why in the radiograph, you kind of see this fuzzy appearance here. These are the nodules. So this is of the finger. This is the palmar side of the hand. You can really see clearly how the crystals are forming there. It can happen in the knee, and then we have here another evidence of the dorsum of the hand. Here's again the big toe. There's an association with eating lots of meat as well. We mostly see this in men over the age of 30. There's some genetic or hereditary component. Protein-rich diet, susceptible, results in waste material, this uric acid accumulation in the blood. The uric acid in the blood can't stay there, so it gets deposited somewhere, and the body chose the big toe, or the hands, or the knee, as we saw. So so we don't want those crystals there. Again, it's diet related, and there's this hereditary component as well. And this is the cartoon to indicate like that this person has gout. They probably were in a time when Other people couldn't eat meat, but they could afford to. So, and they're drinking alcohol. All right, let's pause here, guys.